Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Stop it. Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Oh no!
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
How's the nation? Waldorf Nation, hey everybody, welcome to the show. Thursday. Pretty good show for y'all today. Fun stuff. All right, so it might be a slightly shorter show than usual. I've got a few things to talk about, but I am going to go in depth into some of them, or I should say into pretty much most of them, including Tim Pool. Tim Pool got COVID. That's a fun story. We're going to talk about that. What did he do? How did he get COVID? And how did he treat the COVID? Well, I've got the details. We also got Ted Cruz owning himself, but there is a legitimate point to be made from his criticism. Interesting. So then we got Tucker Carlson on critical race theory. Turns out he didn't know what it is. Weird. And yet he's talked about it for some time. I got the details on that. And then we've got fun news. The rioter that is too white and pretty for jail. We have an update on her. What happened? What happened? So fun times. We've got a fun show here that we're going to do. Again, getting into detail on all these different issues. Which should be, again, more fun than yesterday's show, by the way, because yesterday's show, a little bit heavy. Great job yesterday in the Democrats. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. You know, like going on and actually, criticizing Democrats on my show actually does terrible for my show, believe it or not. So, like, very, very few of those segments got over 1,000 views. Very, very bad. But I think it's important to talk about them, and that's why I do it. It's very hard to criticize Democrats on a channel that's a lot of people watching are fairly liberal. But I think it's important to criticize the Democrats from the left, and I think that helps us be a better movement. And we need to be a better movement because the right is curb stomping our face. And we need to put a stop to it and actually start winning some elections. And most importantly, winning the conversation and winning on policy. Because, you win on the conversation, you win on the politics, and then you can win on the policy. And so And that's why it's also really, really important to share. Very, very important to share those videos out. I know it's a big ask, those of you who watch the live stream, but again, if you could please tweet those out and share those videos, get them spreading around. Criticism of Democrats, as well as the other things that we talk about, that helps me so much. And again, the videos are of course also on Facebook. We've got a fairly well-growing Facebook group and following there. So you share those videos out there as well. Really, really appreciate it. Help spread the progressive myth. Okay. Anyway. Speaking of, well, I should say messages, let's go to Tim Pool. Real good at spreading the right-wing myth. In fact, he's fantastic at it. That isn't until, of course, he got sick with COVID. Right-wing grifter extraordinaire Tim Pool just announced he's got COVID. To which I say, oh no! Or, more importantly, oops. So now, this is according to the Daily Beast. Now, Pool, the pretend centrist / actual right-winger for hire, admitted to testing positive for COVID-19. In fact, here he is explaining how he feels or how he had felt and giving the announcement on Instagram. Take a look.
This past week, I've been MIA because on Friday, I tested positive for COVID. I had an extremely bad case. My lungs were getting really bad. I think I would have ended up in the emergency room were it not for the prescription that I got, which is the kitchen sink treatment. Basically the same thing that Joe Rogan got. It was monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, azithromycin, and I also got NAD and a vitamin drip. And I believe those made me way better. I truly believe it was the monoclonal antibodies that made me better. I want to give a special thanks to Joe Rogan for just his support. I ended up finding a doctor. They gave me this prescription. I think it saved my life. I genuinely think it was that bad, but check it out, and I'll see you there.
Oh, see, man, I got COVID, but it was bad. Don't worry, Dr. Joe Rogan to the rescue. Really? Really? Okay, so now at least he gives credit to the monoclonal antibodies, which really is the only thing that's effective. And so he takes that and then all the other junk that came along with it and is going to be fine. Well, good for him. He's rich. He's a millionaire. He can afford whatever he wants. In fact, I've got more details on that later on in the story. But all right, if he wanted to put more money in the pockets of Big Pharma, specifically in Regeneron, well, congratulations, you have done just that. It would have been cheaper to get the vaccine, as likely if he had gotten COVID, which is likely. You can still get COVID if you've been vaccinated. It does absolutely happen. But the symptoms would not send you to the hospital. But sure. Now, here's the thing, right? So Tim Pool's younger than me. He's only 35. So he's rather young and healthy, and yet still ended up getting a really bad case of COVID because he hasn't been vaccinated. I thought that wasn't supposed to happen. I thought you weren't supposed to get COVID if you were taking, or doing all the things like not masking, not being vaccinated, and then maybe even taking, the ivermectin. I don't know if he was doing that, regimen beforehand, but he certainly wasn't doing anything to protect himself that I know of. But Joe Rogan says, no, if you're young and healthy, you'll be fine. You don't need a vaccine. Natural immunity all the way, baby. Well, what happened? Oops, natural immunity kind of failed. Now, here's the thing. If he took ivermectin beforehand, well, it's not a prophylactic. And so that's not going to protect you from getting sick with COVID. And not only that, but you've shown by running out and throwing the kitchen sink at it that your natural immunity was not good enough. By the way, monoclonal antibodies. You know what monoclonal antibodies are? They're manufactured antibodies. That's it. They're created in a laboratory, meaning that they're not natural antibodies at all. If you say, oh, I'm relying on natural immunity, natural antibodies and all that, you can't then go and get manufactured antibodies put into your body. That's not natural immunity. They're man-made and mass-produced and are designed specifically to recognize the spike protein on the outer shell of the virus and destroy it. By targeting the spike protein, by the way, the antibodies interfere with the virus's ability to attach and to gain entry into human cells, much like natural antibodies, and actually gives the immune system time to mount its own immune response without being overwhelmed by the virus. There's nothing natural, though, about monoclonal antibodies. It's not natural immunity, which is only gained, by the way, after you've gotten COVID. And it's not a replacement for the vaccine. Anybody who says that, by the way, is openly lying to you. Get the vaccine, or you're going to end up like Tim Pool, who did not get the vaccine, and that's why his case was likely as bad as it was. In fact, according to a report in the Daily Beast, Pool had initially downplayed his symptoms, saying, oh, I got a headache, and this doesn't really seem all that serious. Then, the following Thursday morning, Pool woke up feverish and drenched in sweat, plus a headache, he said. It was the worst experience with an illness of this sort I've ever had. And by Thursday evening, he said he felt like death. His fever spiked over the course of the night, had significant body aches that had manifested on Friday, and of course, ended up actually then choosing to go and get some professional help. Now, interestingly enough, Pool was not the only person to come down with COVID. In fact, the Daily Beast also reports that the virus has been spread to multiple members of Pool's media company, who began testing positive a week or so after Pool hosted a well-attended indoor event at a bar and grill in nearby Charleston, West Virginia. So now Pool's out there saying, no, that's not at all what happened. That's wrong, fake news. Oh, somebody showed up actually earlier before the party that was sick, and then that's how everybody got sick because, the place that I was in was well ventilated, even though there was no, requirement to show proof of vaccination, obviously, and we encourage people to wear masks, but nobody did, and they were standing shoulder to shoulder. I don't know how that could have happened. It must have been something else. Now, during the combination comedy, musical, and Q&A show, parts of which were shown in a paywall-protected video, Pool's producer gave a shout-out to people who refused to get vaccinated, encouraging them to quote-unquote hold fast, to which ended up with cheers from the audience. Nice. So, I wonder if they're still cheering now. Spoiler alert, they're not. Many of them have come down sick. So now, here's where it gets funny, right? So, Tim Pool, if you know Tim Pool, you know the guy actually never takes a day off. It is kind of amazing. He's got like 5 different channels, and he never takes a day off. Now, he gets COVID, and it knocks his ass out for a week. So now, his audience, being right-wing, immediately jumps to conspiracy theories. I love this. My favorite part. In the Tim Pool subreddit, one poster in the forum asked if Tim Pool had secretly died. Not only that, but 4chan actually created a fake Vice article that they spread around to fool people into thinking that he's dead. Oops. Wow. Okay. But now, obviously, Tim Pool's still alive. Or is he? Maybe that's a Tim Pool body double. Maybe the beanie was all that was left. And the beanie, you see, Tim Pool isn't the body. Tim Pool is the beanie. The shell can die, but the beanie just grows everything back. I think I figured it out. Tim Pool can't remove the beanie because Tim Pool is the beanie. I'd love to see that on 4chan. Okay, anyway. No. In reality, of course, look, he wasn't doing well, so he decided first to call urgent care, which makes sense. Only he did not have a good experience with urgent care because they wouldn't prescribe him with ivermectin. In fact, here's what he said. The issue of ivermectin did come up. They said that the FDA hadn't approved it to treat COVID and that doctors would not prescribe it. The clinic then advised Poole to come in for further testing and then rest while the virus ran its course. And he said no. And after his symptoms did not get better, Poole feared he had to go to the emergency room. And so he did what any rational human being would do. He decided to call Joe Rogan. I know, I'm going to ignore medical professional advice and I'm going to call Joe fucking Rogan. That's who I'm going to call. Dumbest man alive. Now, Joe Rogan said, your doctor, no, you should ignore that medical advice and you should just find a better doctor. Meaning that, of course, one that would decide, or that would basically do whatever you tell him to. Oh, you want to prescribe ivermectin? Okay, we'll do that. Again, look at the audacity here, okay? If you're rich, like Tim Poole, you could just shop around for a doctor to give whatever crank cures you want. But if you're a regular person, you got to worry about, well, first, being in network or out of network with your insurance, or even if you are lucky enough to have insurance, can you afford your co-pays, your deductibles? But of course, none of that even matters because no doctor worth their salt is going to prescribe ivermectin for COVID because it doesn't work on COVID. It's a waste. So normal people get around that in two different ways. For one, they go to, as I've reported before, there's America Frontline Doctors, and they have this entire scam network set up. And so you can go and you can, go to their site, and then they'll quote unquote refer you to another doctor for a telehealth appointment, all of which you end up paying for, of course. And then that, so-called doctor will prescribe them ivermectin or whatever they want. That consultation and all of that, that's paid by you out of pocket, as well as, of course, the referrals. And not only that, but the prescription, once that's filled, also you pay out of pocket. Now, for millionaires like Joe Rogan and Tim Poole, they can afford that. Working class people do not have that money. They do not have the resources. So what do some of them do? Some of them end up raiding the Tractor Supply store and end up getting things like horsey flavored apple, horsey paste, right? Apple flavored horse paste. That's what happens. So there's a disparity here. Rich grifters like Joe Rogan and Tim Poole will go and get this medication from a doctor prescribed because they'll pay for it. And there are unethical doctors out there that will absolutely do this. And there's proof of that. But regular people, working class people, poor people, they don't do that. They can't get that. So they're the ones that go, some of them, to the animal feed store and get stuff that is prescribed for horses. Now, speaking of costs, by the way, Rogan ended up actually offering to pay for Tim Poole's treatment, which costs him $3,650 in total. You know how much Tim Poole made? $600,000 in the previous month. I don't think he needs your help. Look, I don't know if he took it. I guess why wouldn't you, right? But could you imagine? But I could not imagine making $600,000 off YouTube in a month. Maybe it's because I just suck at YouTube. I don't know. Maybe I'm like, I'm obviously I'm not a grifter because grifters actually make good money on YouTube. But understand that it's so lucrative to be a right-wing hack. It really is. And you don't even have to be smart. You don't have to be cogent. You don't have to be entertaining whatsoever at all. Look at Dave Rubin. He's a classic example. He's too dumb and greedy to be on the left. And so now, when he's a right-winger, all he had to do was hey, I'm a gay right-winger. Or that was formerly somebody who was on the left. Please hire me to talk shit about gay people. Exactly what they do. So I don't think y'all understand how much money there is in grifting right-wing media. And understand that's why Tim Pool even got into this in the first place. Remember, he was a guy who was like, oh, I work for Vice, and I was at the Occupy protest, and I covered that. And turns out this guy, it's kind of a lot of work to be an honest journalist. So I'm just going to go and basically ride every algorithm and give right-wing talking points. And that's how I'm going to grow my channels. And that's what happens. And so, again, there's so much money in right-wing media today. They throw it around like confetti. Corporate media is essentially the same. They throw all that money around too. Online left, however, this is while the online left fights over what's left. Scraps. Understand that this is why conservatives dominate online spaces. It's true. They have a ton of cash, and they take advantage of algorithms that favor anger, fear, as well as, of course, right-wing narratives, because guess what? Right-wing narratives are based on anger, fear, and disgust. You don't need intelligent commentary. You don't need intelligent analysis. In fact, the most clever thing that comes out the right is things like, let's go, Brandon. Sure. They all boost each other too, by the way. Instead of always fighting like we do on the online left, spends more time attacking each other than the right wing and the establishment, because God forbid we disagree with each other 0.1% of the time. CIA, op, shill, warmonger. What are you talking about? You're insane. And you're saying insane things. And look, the online left is right now so incredibly fractured that they're pathetically weak. And we do it mostly to ourselves. And as a result, guess what? People like Tim Pool dominate the online space with nonsense. And you can see the harm that this causes democracy. The harm that causes to the discourse. We can't even have intelligent discourse anymore because we're all too busy yelling at each other over nonsense. So, come on. And by the way, the solution is not to deplatform everyone we disagree with. I don't agree with that. No, in reality, the online left needs to start working together to fight the grift and to spread the progressive message and to fight people like Tim Pool and Joe Rogan, who definitely is nowhere near the left. Okay. What? You mean people who don't cut for to the DNC? This is bad. What the fuck are you talking about? Honestly, what the fuck? What in the ever living fuck are you talking about? Honestly, what the fuck? Yeah, Rogan. No. Yeah, Rogan said he'd vote for Bernie, and then went and voted for Donald Trump. Not a leftist. Not a leftist. That doesn't mean that he can't have occasional reasonable takes. Yeah, because I think most people will have reasonable takes. And then there's things that's crazy land. We tried to work with the DNC, but they don't want anything to do with the online left. No, they don't. You're right about that. I'm not. Who the hell's talking about working with the DNC? What the fuck? What are you? Honestly, I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about. Honestly. No, Rogan's an idiot, God. Like, as I told you, he's a fucking meathead. That's what he is. Rogan has mostly reasonable takes when he talks to someone reasonable. Yes. The problem is, though, is that Joe Rogan doesn't talk to people who are reasonable anymore. He talks to right-wingers all the time, and then just continuously spouts and agrees with everything the fucking right-wingers say on his show. Almost. With some exceptions. And I'll be fair about that, because I am fair. Sometimes he does push back, like, on dipshits like Dave Rubin. And that's fun to watch, and I like that. And I do enjoy that. But he's still a fucking idiot for most of the part. And a super, super transphobe. And I'm not cool with that. I will feel more confident when one side calls it the bankers and their fiat scams. He's lost in the tinfoil hat nonsense. True. Only on things he cares about. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Like if you ever challenge Joe Rogan on anything related to weed, then Joe Rogan's going to be like, oh, no, here's all the facts. I got all this stuff looked up. Let me school your fucking ass. But when it comes to something that, is complicated and that he doesn't really care about, of course he'll just talk about, and he'll just echo the right-wing narrative. Okay, anyway. Why don't I move on here before I just spend the whole show hassaning at you all? You're right, weed does not kill people. Agreed. Again, that's one good take. Stop labeling. As soon as you stop labeling people who disagree with you kills, sellouts, and ops, it ain't so easy, is it? Come on. Because we know you do that. That's a gigantic tool that's used. Everybody's labeling each other. So when you tell somebody to stop labeling someone, you first. You first. Okay. And you know what? I will label people because there are people, yeah, not everybody fits into a specific little box, but generally, if you have like 70% right-wing takes, you're a right-winger. And I'm going to call you a right-winger because that's apparently where your politics lies. All right. The Republicans keep trying to cast themselves as the party of the working man. The out-of-touch elites. No. Those are the libs. Now, Ted Cruz, he decides that he's going to go after John Kerry. So now he's going to do so in an interesting way that involves private jets. And he's going to end up owning himself.
John Kerry has a private jet that has flown dozens of times this past year all around the country. I don't know about you, but I don't have a private jet. I don't believe any of the people on this stage have their own private jet.
Portman does. Yeah.
Owned by himself. Great cell phone. So now Rob Portman, he's like, no, I don't have a private jet. No, I don't have a private jet. In fact, here he says, does Delta count? I fly back and forth to Ohio and coach twice a week. Yeah, press X to doubt. I don't believe it at all. Bull fucking shit. I don't think any of these people at all ride in coach or economy. The only person that I've ever seen fly economy is Bernie Sanders, the only politician. Why? Because Bernie Sanders is the poorest member of the Senate, even though Bernie Sanders technically is a millionaire. Why? Because he wrote 2 successful books. As for Portman, much more successful. In fact, his family owns the oldest continuously operated business in Ohio and has a net worth estimated of about $10,827,000, $545 by Open Secrets in 2018, and $10,400,000 by roll call. So that was back in January. So he's rich. He's rich. So, but then again, understand that most people in Congress are rich. And I actually don't even have an issue with wealth up to a certain point, because I think the real point is how you get the wealth. I'm against, for example, the existence of billionaires. Why nobody makes $1 billion without stepping on somebody? For example, Jeff Bezos. Recent story came out where Amazon recently had to pay a $61 million settlement to 140,000 Amazon Flex drivers for stealing tips from workers. These drivers actually end up using their own vehicles. So, they put miles, wear and tear, tires, gas, etc., and they deliver groceries to people. So that's very minimal operating costs for Amazon. And most of the costs are borne on you. Now, as in return for that, you're supposed to get 100% of the tips, right? But then Amazon comes around and steals your wages. Literally. In fact, the highest amount of this settlement went to a single Amazon Flex driver that actually had $28,000 stolen by Jeff Bezos. Jesus Christ. Now, Amazon told both customers and drivers that the drivers would receive 100% of the tips. However, that practice ended in 2016, and they didn't say anything about it. Change came when Amazon lowered the hourly pay for Amazon Flex drivers, but did not tell them, making up the difference with customer tips. This is just one example. The overall point being, you do not get billions of dollars without screwing over someone or something. For example, pollution. It's called, privatizing the gains and socializing the losses. Yeah. So now Republicans get millions of dollars for screwing everybody over in Congress, as do corporate Democrats. Sure, absolutely. Joe Manchin, for example, John Tester, Mark Warner, all these people get tons of money for not doing anything for the American people. So I'm pretty sure, though, that this Republicans don't have private jets and are not members of the elite, like the Democrats are, is bullshit. They're all the elite. They're all the elite. And look, as far as Republicans are concerned, look at one of the Capitol rioters who literally flew to Washington, D.C. on a private jet. Save your faux outrage, please. You're all the elites. Now, again, where Ted Cruz might actually have something close to resembling a good point or a fair point is, okay, take the COP26 summit, right, on climate change. So that's a gathering of world leaders and business leaders, and they're all there to talk about, the devastation that will be wrought by climate change. Okay. Except, how did they get there? Well, they all flew there in private jets, which are literally the worst way to travel if you're worried about carbon emissions. And yet, everybody there, who, by the way, showed up on their private jets, ended up going there to make vague, weak promises to do something about climate change that they will never follow through on, ever. If they were serious about climate change, especially Joe Biden, he would actually address the biggest polluter in the world, the U.S. military, which creates more pollution than 140 other countries combined. Greta Thunberg is right when she says the politicians and our leaders, they're all talk and absolutely no action, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we have a literal coal baron that has dictated 100% Joe Biden's climate change agenda. And by the way, not just a coal baron, but the Chamber of Commerce and the energy industry. Not to mention the pharmaceutical industry as well, but that's on, of course, drug prices. So you can see how this goes. This is legalized bribery. Now, the reason, of course, that I'm beating up Biden and the Democrats here is because we know it's very, very open. They're very open, Republicans are, about climate denial. They don't believe in climate change. They don't care at all. We expect nothing from Republicans, but we are supposed to expect more from Democrats. At least that's what's being told to people. I know better. I don't expect better from Democrats because I've seen them too much. But those of you who are not immersed in politics all day can understand why you would see them, Democrats make promises about, wow, you care so much about climate change. Oh, you say you're going to do something by 2050, 2070, 2100? Okay, well, I believe you. I guess I'll vote for you. No, they're in the pockets of fossil fuels almost as much as Republicans. At least the ones in very, very key positions. So we are supposed to expect that better from Democrats. We're never going to get better from Democrats until we remove that private fossil fuel money, get rid of the bribery. As for COP26, there was no reason that couldn't have been a goddamn Zoom meeting. I mean, seriously. And one notable thing, right? So a lot of people, again, showed up. Jeff Bezos flew his own private jet. Of course he did. That's after dumping, lots of pollution into the atmosphere, taking people up to space or to the edge of space in a giant dick rocket. But at least, I mean, it should have been a Zoom meeting, but other than that, they could have done at least what Leonardo DiCaprio did, for example. So Leonardo DiCaprio's an activist and an actor, cares about climate change, right? You know how he got to COP26? He took a commercial flight, a scheduled commercial flight, and didn't create any additional emissions by taking a private jet. At least that's something. But the rest of them, complete and utter hypocrites. Now, of course, Republicans will tell you that, and they'll point out the hypocrisy, correctly so. But then they'll also go and deny climate change, all in order to do a gotcha. And that's what this is. Wow. Well done. Except, for Ted Cruz, who was so bad at this, the guy ends up owning himself. Sad, baby. Okay. Term limits on Congress. Not going to do anything until you eliminate the corruption. All you're going to do is to swap out one suit for another. Hey, I love that you're trying to come up with ideas, but unless we actually eliminate the system of legalized corruption and bribery in our politics, replacing one person with another, one corporate suit with another corporate suit, is going to do more harm than good. And in fact, you do that, you might end up actually replacing the few good people we actually have that don't take corporate money. Well, their term will be up. And let me give you an example. So the president's got term limits, right? Well, that hasn't stopped any of the corruption. All of our presidents, just almost all of them, have been corrupt in the same way. And so I love that you're trying to come up with ideas, and I appreciate that. But let me tell you, that's not going to work. You've got to eliminate the corruption first. You've got to get rid of the money in politics, private money, get it all out, corporate money, union money, publicly finance these elections, or else you're never, ever going to get any progress, ever. It is difficult to defeat incumbents. That is true. That is true. All right. Let's go to critical race theory. The right wing is talking a lot about critical race theory, as well as now cable news, following the defeat, of course, Terry McAuliffe in Virginia. So now, critical race theory. This is now the nefarious boogeyman that apparently the left has placed in all the schools in order to do something to the kids that's probably bad, or something and very, very bad and racist. So now, since last year, Fox News couldn't stop talking about critical race theory. Now, as I pointed out in the show, they talk about it, but they can never really seem to define it or even prove that it's being taught in schools. So now here's Tucker Carlson on a recent show now making the admission, after a year of talking about it, that he actually has no idea what it is.
You could say technically, Tucker, it's not being taught in the sense that, volumes have been written on critical race theory, and it's not been handed out as a textbook, but its influence and its tenets are in those schools.
I've never figured out what critical race theory is, to be totally honest, after a year of talking about it. They're teaching that some races are morally superior to others, that some are inherently sinful and some are inherently saintly, and that's immoral to teach that because it's wrong.
Oh my God, he admitted. They both admit it. Well, it's not technically being in the schools. It's not being taught in the sense. There's no volumes of critical race theory, and I don't even know what it is, says Tucker Carlson, but it's bad and something Nazis. Well, he'll get to the Nazi part later. I mean, come on. Oh, you know what? By the way, what Tucker Carlson said at the end, like, that would be wrong if it was taught in schools, except that it's not being taught in the schools. That is not what critical race theory is. It's not. And yet, you've spent the last year constantly bellyaching about the thing that you don't actually know what it is. Wonderful. Wonderful. So now, the thing is here, is this is all by design. We know this, okay? Before Fox News started talking about it, who here knew what critical race theory was? You would only know if you were basically a law student, because that's where it was taught. It's never been taught in K through 12. It's not. It's a college level course for law students. But now nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it is. And so conservatives, they heard about it and they're like, that's it. That's it. We found something, the next culture war trick. We're just going to define it. We're going to take this thing that's in a college level course that, of course, most of our viewers, we're never going to go to college anyway, so they're never going to know. And we're going to define it, and we're going to make it into something that it's not, to say that it's bad, and then use it for political games. In fact, just like this.
This is not a semantic debate about what critical race theory means. Schools are teaching students, your children, that some races are inherently superior to other races. That's the definition of racism. That some children are born with the stain of sin inherently? That's Nazi stuff. It is. It's totally un-American. That should never be allowed. It's also factually untrue. No child is born with the stain of sin. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Also, you might want to stop with the questions, right? Oh, the whole thing is ridiculous.
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's not what critical race theory is. That's not. No, they're not teaching students that some races are inherently superior. That's total projection. Total projection. And it's just... So let me explain what critical race theory is, okay? Critical race theory is basically an academic concept that says that race is a social construct, and that racism is not just a product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something that is embedded in our legal systems and our policies, okay? And so the basic tenets of critical race theory, or CRT, emerged out of a framework for legal analysis in the late 1970s and early 1980s, created by legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, and Richard Delgado, among others. An example of this critical race theory can be applied when looking back at housing, for example, in the 1930s. Government officials literally would draw red lines around areas deemed poor financial risks, often as a result of the people in the area being of a certain racial composition, meaning, of course, black people. So now they draw, what happens after they draw that red line around this primarily black area? They would then use that as a way to deny mortgages or home ownership to people in those areas. So they pick out minority areas and then they refuse to offer mortgages. Therefore, and understand that real estate is one of the ways to build wealth. And so they essentially denied black people in the 30s the ability to generate wealth. literal redlining. And that's why it's called redlining. So now redlining itself explicitly no longer exists, but it still is around in a different form. So, for example, single-family zoning, right? So single-family zoning is a way to prevent people from having affordable housing in certain areas. So you cannot build affordable housing in advantaged majority white neighborhoods. And so what does that do? The result of this means that people who are, poor, but majority black, cannot move into majority white neighborhoods, and is essentially segregation. Now, critical race theory also says that there's basically racism in parts of everyday life, and that people, even without meaning to, can inadvertently make choices that could fuel racism, and again, not even know it. Now, when you think about that, that's pretty disturbing, right? Oh my God, I could be making choices and doing things that are negatively impacting people of color in my area, and I don't even know it. Well, now, what happens? Well, most people will feel bad about that, right? Oh my God, I didn't know. I had no idea that I was perpetuating a system of injustice. Okay, now the thing is, conservatives want to focus on, they want to teach you CRT so that you feel bad, right? So that you feel like you're responsible. But you're not. If you don't know that what you're doing is perpetuating a system of injustice, how is that your fault? Critical race theory does not teach that it's your fault, you're racist, you should feel bad for doing this. No, it's there to point out, like, hey, you're a beneficiary of a system that has treated one race more favorably than the other. Now, if you know about this system, you have one more tool that will allow you to work on dismantling that system. Okay? So now, again, feeling bad is not the point. It's working to fix those systems of injustice and to allow people to have more equity in the system. And of course, in order to do that, and to work towards that, you have to first know what's going on. You have to have knowledge that these problems exist in the first place. So critical race theory, again, is not saying you're racist and you should feel bad. That's what the right wing is trying to tell you. It just says, here's how racism is involved in daily life, and here's how maybe we should begin to work on dismantling those systems of oppression so that everyone can have an equal chance at the American dream. But see, for Tucker, and many on the right wing who don't know what it is, right? And I actually do think Tucker knows. But many of the right wing doesn't. They don't want equity. They do not want black people to obtain the American dream. They like the systems of oppression that are in place, which keep those people down and them in power. Also gives them a very convenient scapegoat. For example, if we do welfare programs, which by the way go to both black and white people, okay? If we expand welfare programs, I'm going to have to pay more taxes. If I'm rich like Tucker Carlson, I don't want my tax money to be used. So I'm going to get these people to fight against each other. I'm going to get poor black people, poor white people to fight against each other so that I can pay less in taxes. And that's it. I'm greedy, so I'm just going to make things up, and then I'm going to get you all mad at each other so that you fight while I sit back and laugh all the way to the bank. That's it. That's it. They love those systems of oppression because it keeps them in power. It keeps them wealthy. Very, very good culture war bait. Okay? Especially when, by the way, he says, oh, the left thinks you're all racist. I actually don't believe that. I don't think most people are racist. I think there are racist people, for sure. And many racist people happen to be part of the Republican Party. But racism does exist everywhere. There are even racist people on the left. I know, crazy, right? Not very many of them. But there are some. But here's the thing. Most people, not racist, but many people do have implicit bias based on racial stereotypes. But that's not the same as being an out-and-out racist, understand. Implicit bias is something that you don't know is there. But if you find out, then you can work on that and you can get over that bias. Racism basically means you think you're superior to another person as a result of your inherent race or racial identity. So, but understand, this is what Tucker Carlson is ironically projecting onto the left, where he thinks one race is superior, and that is the white people. And one more thing that I want to address, okay? So now, this whole discussion actually came in response to lib pundits on cable news that were falsely saying that it was critical race theory, the perception that critical race theory is being taught in schools, which it's not, that pissed off parents and made them vote against Terry McAuliffe and for Glenn Youngkin. So I disagree with that. Working class parents were actually more pissed off that schools were closed as a result of COVID. Look, working class people got bills to pay. They couldn't go back to work because there's no affordable childcare. Terry McAuliffe offered them nothing economically at all. Nothing to help improve their material conditions. And so understand that the Democrats screwed him over. They did not pass human infrastructure because the corporate wing of the party and the weakness of progressives to stand their ground on these incredibly popular policies. They gave him nothing to work with. Terry McAuliffe had nothing to run on. Terry McAuliffe had the charisma of a piece of fucking driftwood. Terry McAuliffe is a Clintonite Democrat all the way. Centrist, corporatist. And what did he do? Since he didn't have anything economically populist to run on, he decided to use the Clinton playbook. You know what the Clinton playbook was? Trump bad. Trump bad. That's it. The McAuliffe campaign literally printed out mailers that were ads. Again, they literally paid for these things. That were ads saying how close Youngkin was with Trump. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. You know why? Because while Trump is bad, Trump wasn't on the ballot in Virginia. Youngkin distanced himself enough because he was more of a savvy politician and knew how to play the politics. He distanced himself from Trump after, of course, being very close to him to win the Republican primary, and gave the appearance that he might do something for the voters based on the CRT nonsense. Now, how many times, I ask you, are the Democrats going to replay the loser 2016 playbook of Trump bad, Trump bad? No, you got to give voters a reason to come out by running, I think, economically popular policy. And if you do that, I can guarantee that it will be whatever nonsense culture war issue that is trotted out by the right wing, who also does nothing to improve the material conditions in your life. And in fact, they go out of their way to make it worse. Okay. Go to fun. Jenna Ryan, the Dallas area realtor who flew to D.C. on her own private jet to help the Capitol insurrection, just got some bad news. After saying that she is too blonde and too white for jail, U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper sentenced her to jail anyway. Now, she gets 60 days in prison for parading and picketing outside the Capitol. So normally, you don't get jail time for that, but hers was a special case because she was very special. And so now, here's the thing. So I said that she was parading, picketing, whatever. She was inside the building for about 2 minutes. That's what she claims anyway. And so she's like, why am I in trouble? I was only in there for a couple of minutes. Okay, but here's the thing. You break into a bank for a couple of minutes, Even if you don't steal anything, you can still get arrested and charged with a crime because you still broke it. I'm just saying. Not only that, but prosecutors also pointed to a video she had made of her cheering on the rioters and saying this, quote, "Here we go. We are going to effing go in there. Life or death, it doesn't matter. Here we go." Oh, really? Oh, really? What happened to life or death? And now she cries about going to jail for 60 days. But we'll get to that. Judge Cooper, after seeing that video, said this: "I don't think you could have missed the fact that this was no peaceful protest. You were a cheerleader. You cheered it on." Now, in addition to cheering on the other rioters, Ryan also reportedly pitched her real estate company because why not? Free advertising, right? The caucasity of the situation. All right. So now prosecutors argued for the jail time in her case because, well, she was being very combative, right? She would repeatedly say things like, "I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to jail. I'm too white." In fact, here she said the exact quote on social media: "Definitely not going to jail. Sorry, I have blonde hair, white skin, a great job, a great future, and I'm not going to jail. Sorry to rain in your hater parade. I did nothing wrong." Now, these comments, this is funny when you look at the context, too, by the way. So she's saying, "I'm not going to jail. I'm too pretty and white." Now, she was also in the same thread on Twitter complaining about the good old boys club in conservative alt news. In fact, she said this, and I'm pointing this out for a fun reason. "I should be supported by alt-right news media outlets. However, I am being left to the vultures of the left. It's pretty sad that InfoWars or the Gateway Pundit has totally avoided my story, while every MSM outlet on the planet is asking for a statement. Quite obvious glass ceiling. Oh, are you surprised the sexist party is doing the sexism? Oh, that's ironic. Super, super ironic. I can't believe a movement that hates women won't defend a woman. Oh my God. I never thought this would happen. Wow. I can't believe a party that, says we're going to eat your face starts eating your face. What happened? I didn't see that one coming. Wow. But the best part here, is, an interview with WUSA 9's Eric Flack that happened after the sentencing. Let's take a look.
Of course, I walked into the Capitol for 2 minutes, and I'm remorseful of that. I'm disappointed that I am being used as an example in my incarceration because other people that walked in for 2 minutes may not have the same thing, but because I'm a public person and I have a Twitter account, I'm being punished for that. And because the media was doing what y'all are doing right now, I'm being punished for this, and it's actually causing my incarceration. And I think that is a travesty.
It's a travesty. It's a travesty. Twitter account. I can't go tweet. No, you know what caused your incarceration, lady? Doing crime. And then boasting that you wouldn't get arrested or put in jail for it. So here's what happened. You spit in their eye. That's what you did. First, they're going to come down. You already did a crime, and then you spit in their eye. That's your fault. You did that. You built that. You built that. All right. Anyway, I have one more video, and this is also fun. It's got to do with the free speech. The free speech.
I think that everybody should be able to tweet without being persecuted and treated like crap. So it's, watch what you tweet, because if you tweet, you can go to jail, basically.
Do you regret tweeting that you weren't going to jail?
Well, I didn't think I was at the time, and that's because they had had some discussions about it. And yes, I regret ever tweeting, but, it's a free country, and I'm allowed to say, it's free speech. And so I really believe in free speech.
Okay. I bet I've been treated like crap and persecuted for tweeting. No, you did crime. You're in trouble for crime. And then tweeting, yes, you tweeted about how I'm going to get away with the crime because I'm too white. But my free speech, my free speech. No, here's the thing, right? So, yes, you do have free speech. But, okay, what tweeting is you're announcing things to the world. Anybody can see them, okay? You're shouting. It's the same as shouting into the public square, okay? And you should be careful what you put out there. Again, not because of what she's saying, but because if you go out there and you announce not only that you have done crime, which a lot of these, by the way, a lot of these people who were in the January 6th insurrection would post on social media their literal crime. Videos of themselves, pictures of themselves, all plastered all over Facebook, plastered all over Twitter and YouTube, videos everywhere, pictures everywhere of them doing crime. And then they're like, oh my God, how did I get caught? Idiot. Moron. Dumb ass. Stupid. You idiot. This is what happens when you're dumb and don't realize you're dumb. Okay? Don't plaster your crimes online. And by the way, if you've done crime, don't go online and boast about how you're not going to go to jail for said crime. Dumbest criminals in the world. Dumbest criminals. This is no different. By the way, so there's a rule for free speech, right? Online. Don't tweet something that you wouldn't tell someone to their face. Right? So just imagine she's in front of a judge, okay? Is she going to tell and tweet the judge or tell the judge, hey, by the way, I'm too pretty and white to put in jail? You going to tell that to the judge's face? No, then don't put it online, idiot. Stupid. Stupid. That's nothing to do with free speech. Nothing. Nothing. Free speech, yes, you can say whatever you want. That doesn't mean it's free from consequences. That's the thing that no one seems to understand about the issue of free speech. It is not free from consequence. Okay. All right. That's it. Done. Okay. All right. Let's read some super chats, huh? Bayman29, I'm sorry, 29397 says Q was right about JFK Jr. being with the Rolling Stones. I can confirm JFK Jr. is hanging out with Charlie Watts and Brian Jones. Ah, yes. Yeah, I guess we were wrong. Yes, we were wrong. It was another one of the successful
big massive dumps.
Q dumps.
Dumps.
All right. Jonathan Leiter says, pumpkin spice horse paste season. We're in a confederacy of dunces, I fear. Agreed. Also adds, it's just more Republican pearl clutching over a cultural issue, obscuring the fact that they don't really care about Joe Blue Collar. They don't, but none of them do. None of them do. So they don't care. People who are wealthy and elite generally do not care about us. It's a very rare exception that someone does. But we have been taught in this country, especially rich people have been taught that they are superior to other people. And that poor people deserve to be poor, they deserve to be rich because they're better people. It's gross and completely wrong. Dango Bango says, it's enraging this person's getting a lighter sentence because of her skin color, and she falls into the binomial model. And Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind super sticker, $5 donation. I appreciate that. Let's go over to Twitch here. I got some Twitch people to thank as well. John's Venn Diagram Desire, thank you for resubbing for a month of Tier 1. 13 months is over a year. Thank you so much, John's Venn Diagram Desire. I appreciate that. And thank you for the 5 Tier 1 community subs. I really appreciate that. as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Not sure if I'm going to be here tomorrow or not. We'll see. I'll let y'all know. I'll do what I can. But thank you all. If I'm not here for the live stream, by the way, I'm going to try to put up some videos. We'll see what happens. I'm going to do my best. All right, everybody. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Maybe see you tomorrow. Maybe not. If not, Monday. All right, everybody. Thank you, and have a great day.
Amazing.
Stop it. Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Who's got a hammer? There's insanity in the control room.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.